Good afternoon. So, to talk about how generative AI can help us in finance, I really want to show you concrete use cases. And before that, I want to check a bit with you where you are right now on your AI journey. So, we'll do a little game. Each time you will answer by yes, you will just have to stand up. Easy, huh? Yes? So, first question for you. Did you already use AI in your work? Okay. So, that's interesting because we actually see, when I give these trainings to companies, that it's a bit like in this room where some people use it, but only half of it use it really for work. And when we ask the question, are you using AI at work multiple times per week? Please stand up if you are using it multiple times per week. So we have like 20% in the room or something like this. And my goal today is that if I see you again in 2 months, that all of you will stand up. Is that a good goal? Yes? Awesome. So, that was me 2 years ago when I received a gift or a toy, you know, like at Christmas when you receive video games. And this one was ChatGPT. And I couldn't stop playing with this because each time I was trying something, I could see even more value. And I used my experience in finance, I worked 15 years in finance, to try to get use cases. And now, 2 years after, I trained 5,000 people and 100 of companies. And I want to show you some of the use cases today. And a bit about me, I show that also not only to companies, but I have also a following of more than 1 million people on LinkedIn, on my newsletter, and also on Twitter. Because my goal is to make us in finance the AI champion in business. And if you think about finance, especially the finance teams in all of the companies, all of the people working under the CFO, we have access to data, finance data, but also non-finance data. We have access to all of the departments. We have also a really good skill with technology. We are really good with ERP, with Excel. A lot of us do Power BI. And on top, we have direct access to management. So I think we are the best to be in the position to become the AI champion of the business. So what can you do today with generative AI? There is 4 categories that I identified, because first, we use a lot of figures, but before using figures, we do our emails with words. We do presentations. We also translate text. We also demystify some of the finance complex areas and make them easy for others. So each time you have a task like this, think about generative AI. Second, and I'm going to show you how, you can create finance procedures. And as a small story, when I was working as a head of finance, each time there was an audit, everybody was getting stressed. We had to put all of our internal controls in place. We had to produce them. And it was a lot of late hours. And I wish that at this time I had ChatGPT. But what is really good at, as well, is to be your go-to person if you want to be better at Excel, PowerPoint, or SAP. Because all of my life, and I don't know if it's the same than you, each time you needed help for Excel, what did you do? Google, right? Or YouTube videos, or forums. And that's quite long, because before you find your answer and you apply it, you need half an hour, 1 hour. Here, and I will show you how, you can have an assistant that is like your expert in your team, but available 24 hours, 7 days a week. And last, and I'm going to show you that straight away after, you can use generative AI to help you with financial analysis. So I'll let you do the picture. Actually, I will give you the presentation at the end. So if you stay until the end, you will be able to download the presentation. So before that, as not a lot of you were using AI at work, let's really quickly, that's what I teach, make you like a pro, because some of you are maybe beginners. So the first mistake is to use AI like Google. And what is the Google method? Let's imagine that we have here a dunning letter that we need to write. So my client didn't pay, so I will write a dunning letter. And then when I type dunning letter, what is happening? I get a super explanation. It writes super fast. But did that help me? No, huh? And that's the problem. A lot of people see that it's super smart, but not helpful. And why is that happening is, this is not Google. This is actually more like an intern or a super intern with a big brain. And instead of thinking about the Google method, I want to teach you one of my framework, which is the CSI and FBI framework. Because if you want to solve a crime, what you can do first is to bring the, can you go back? Yeah, the CSI method. So with CSI, you have first C for context, because you need to explain, like you work with an assistant. I am an accountant. Then you need to say what is your problem. You need to be specific. So here, my problem is that my client has an overdue. And then you always need to give an instruction, because if not, ChatGPT will start telling you, here are the 10 ways to solve your problems. No, I know already how I want to solve it. I want to have a letter. So when I use that, what happened is, when I use the CSI, if the video launches, yeah, now it's good. So when you use the CSI method, that was the wrong one, yeah. So now I use this prompt. And instead of telling me what is a dunning letter, it does exactly what I want. So now it starts to be a good assistant for us, where it helps us with our work. So if you read, it's like kind of a standard letter. And what we need after that, because this is not going to help solve our problem, because this client maybe never pays. Maybe this client, yeah, like I have a hard time with this client, so I need to call my lawyer. So instead of calling your lawyer, we are going to bring a second team, and this second team is the FBI. Because like this, with CSI and FBI, you're sure to solve your problems. And the F is for format, because you know what you want as format. It could be that instead of writing an email or a letter, you want to have a script to call your client. Could be that you want a PowerPoint presentation or a table. So format here, really important. Then the blueprint. In the blueprint, that's where you are going to say the words that you have in your mind that you know will trigger your clients. And here, what are the best words than legal actions? If your client reads that, he's going to start sweating and going to react. And on top, the I, it's in gray because you don't need to use it all the time. I is for identity. You can make your chatbot behave like here, a lawyer. So when I use CSI and FBI together, then we'll see if I get closer to my work with just adding a bit more in my prompt. And here you will see that I start to have the bullet points that are exactly saying to my client, here's what is going to happen if you don't pay. And the subject has also legal action inside. And you see how we went from the Google method that was not helpful at all to the CSI that is intermediate, to the FBI, where now with CSI FBI, we have a letter that even if you are really good in English, even if you are really good in French, hardly you will write that well and that fast. And this concept, even if you're already good with using AI, it's actually a good concept and a framework to teach to your teams, because it sticks in the mind, and then people can get better use of AI and do more use cases. So now that we saw the prompting framework that I teach, let's go directly to something a bit more interesting for finance, analysis. And so if I start straight away with a headcount file, with name, department, position, salary, and increase for next year, and I am in ChatGPT with an enterprise contract, meaning I am allowed to upload data, or if I have fake data. Okay, that's the concept. Well, for once that we can get a McKinsey consultant for free, let's use that. And we are going to upload the data inside ChatGPT. And what is really important for you to understand is that ChatGPT cannot read Excel files. But ChatGPT can tell its friend Python, hey, Python, here is a code. Can you read to me the first 5 lines in the Excel file? So the same way that if you show your friends a problem, you are going to show them the file. So here, ChatGPT asks Python, please read for me the file. And then Python gives back the first 5 lines. And ChatGPT now understands how does this file look like. And ChatGPT understands that there is 5 columns. And based on these 5 columns, ChatGPT goes back to all of the database thinking, these are the 4 types of analysis I can do. But ChatGPT cannot calculate. So ChatGPT asks back to Python to calculate and create the graphs. And that's really important to understand that, because in generative AI, there is generative, meaning the models are generating an answer and not calculating an answer. So the answer that is the most probable. And in finance, we don't like most probable. We like when it's accurate. What is accurate is the Python code, because it's like an Excel formula. So what you will use here is the AI, the same way that you will do with Excel. If you have 100 lines, you will not go and use your piece of paper to calculate yourself. You will tell Excel, calculate that for me. Here is exactly the same concept. So now that we saw easy graphs, let's do something a bit more complex. And we go back with this file, where the video doesn't play. Okay. Yes, very good. So now I'm going to ask how to show the salary distribution. And I've worked 15 years in finance. I've done hundreds of these analyses. Never in my life I thought about using that. But this is actually one of the best graphs to show a distribution of salaries, expenses, sales. And this graph says so much. You have the outliers in the first department, which is administration. So that's the management, earning a lot of money. We see also the production against the maintenance. And this graph, actually, we are not used to use it in finance, but ChatGPT does it for us because it knows it's the best way to represent this distribution. Now that we did that inside ChatGPT, what about doing that outside in our Excel file? Because I also promised to you that we will learn how to use AI to be better at Excel. So what I do is I ask ChatGPT to use this example and to tell me how to do it in Excel, because I don't know if it's possible. And now, because I ask to show me a step-by-step method, I get exactly all of the steps I need to use to be able to reproduce this graph. And by the way, this graph is called box plot. So next time you have to do something like this, you see it is box plot. And you can even ask, can you tell me how can I describe this graph to my management? If you want exactly the right words. So now that I have the exact instruction, I select the 2 columns. I go to Insert. I go to the statistical chart. And here is my box plot. 90 degrees turn, but that's just a design preference. And now this graph is inside my own data, my own file. And if I want to reproduce that in my own environment, basically I don't need AI anymore. So I can do this analysis with either fake data or just showing the top of the columns, saying I have a file that looks like this, these 5 columns. How can I do a box plot? And it will tell you exactly how to do it. So like this, your teams can get much better at financial analysis and at financial storytelling. Let's do like even something more complex. who has done already a cohort analysis? Because that's new with some of you. That's new with SaaS. So here, what we want is to analyze the sales, and especially the behavior of our customers. So I'm uploading this file, and I will ask to do a cohort analysis on the retention of the data. The video is stopping. Yeah, OK. So how does it work, the cohort analysis? It groups customers based on one criteria. So here we are going to group by months. So when did they enter in our business? And here, again, ChatGPT will tell to Python, can you do this analysis for me? So when Python do this analysis, it will create a graph that actually is really hard to redo in Excel. Because this graph is more based on conditional formatting, and there is no graph like this in Excel. So we have now, after I ask, a graph showing, based on when they arrived, the clients, when did they leave. So you can see here in August, so that's in the middle, that the clients arriving in August 2022 left much earlier than all of the other clients. And this now, as a finance person, I have the insights to go and dig down with maybe the marketing team or the sales team to understand if maybe we did a sort of promotion during this month, and we should never do that again because they stayed at the beginning, but they left really quickly. But with this, so that's the method. You can upload, you can have the prompt. But the problem here, we are doing that with data, and all of our data should be confidential. So I guess a lot of you don't have a ChatGPT Enterprise, right? So how can we do that without compromising the data? That's what I'm going to teach you now. Because we have 4 problems. The first one, confidentiality of data, but not only. Auditability. Imagine showing a chat box to your internal auditor. Imagine your manager late having to review your work. Impossible because no access, or maybe it's lost, or even your colleagues taking over your job after. So auditability, not possible. Then third, large data is not yet possible inside ChatGPT or the others. Like it bugs really quickly when the data is heavy. And fourth, when we are talking about AI, we are thinking about automations, saving time. And you saw the process. I have to upload, I have to type, then I have a picture. So it's not really like scalable if you have to do that every day or to do that on 100 companies. So how do we solve these 4 problems? We solve it using exactly the same formula, but in our own environment. So here, what I will ask ChatGPT to give me the code it used to recreate this analysis. And ChatGPT was really good with words that we can use, like the letter, I can do a copy and paste and do that in Outlook. But us in finance, what we need is to work with files, work with figures. And the best way to do that is to work with code. And there is this tool called Google Colab, which is Google Doc or Google Sheet, but for code. And if your company is already using Gmail, Google Sheets, Google Doc, you can start doing that because it's based on Google Drive. And Google Colab is really the easiest way to start with Python. And myself, I never learned programming. I never learned Python. And I'm able to do this type of analysis by just replacing the code. And here, uploading my file inside my secure environment, which is Google Drive. And once I have my file, I just change in the code to show to the code where is my file. So it's just the, like the path, same way that in Excel you explain where is your file. So I change that in the code, and now that I have it, I click play, and look in the bottom, you see executing in 5 seconds, I have this graph, exactly the same one. I didn't give any confidential data. I can be audited by somebody who can read the code and see the source file plus the formula is correct or not, but it's auditable. I can also scale it, because Python can be repeated on 100 files. I can have this code saying, instead of doing it on one file, do it on a folder with 100 files. And Python is really good with large data. So all of my 4 problems are solved here by combining generative AI and Python. And so for us in finance, if we want to use AI, we need to start using Python. But it's not like 5 years ago where you needed to code it by yourself. Now, you just use generative AI to code it for you. And Python, if you are good with Excel, seriously, like it's almost the same. It reads English. You can even ask ChatGPT to explain you the code. And the only thing to do is to start now. And to continue to show you like how it can help you, there's a lot of tasks that we do that ChatGPT cannot do for us, because ChatGPT can write really well, can explain us how to do something, but cannot do it for us. So here, if the video plays, yeah. So here, an example. Imagine you have 12 files, where in these 12 files, you want to combine them to do one annual analysis. And you could do that manually. You could use also maybe Power Query or VBA. But what about just letting AI do the work for you? So here, with my own words, I ask ChatGPT, what is my problem? And I will just execute this mini code here. It's really, really small. And this code is just doing the combined work. So I will go in Google Colab, where my data is, because my Google Drive has all of my sales data. So here I connect to the Google Drive. And the advantage here is I am now in my safe environment. And if you are not using Google, you can use that with Microsoft Azure. It works the same way. It's just like Microsoft Azure is in black and here is in white. Or if you are not sure, you can also do that on your computer. But to start at home, if you want to learn, Google Colab is the best. And now I will run this code, and you can see under that in 15 seconds, it created the combined file. And when I open this combined file, I have the first month, so January. And then I will see that under January, I have February. And then after February, I have March, etc. So imagine in your teams or even yourself, this is a typical task that we do still manually. And instead, what we should do is just ask AI the code to do it automatically. Maybe a small story on this. It was last summer when, it was beginning of the year. I was getting audited by the tax department, the tax for my VAT, and my tax advisor, who is also my accountant, cost me like 100 euros per hour and tells me, we are going to upload all of your transactions inside the accounting system. But my transactions were 80 CSV files, with each of the files like 200, 300 lines. And it tells me, well, for each file, you need to clean the data because the system doesn't understand negative data. Then you need to add the account number. Then you need to delete the lines where it was written PayPal. And we had to do that for 80 files. So I was thinking, OK, if I let the accountant do that, it would be 1 week of work, so 4,000 euros. Or if I do that in Excel, maybe 1 day of my work. And then I was thinking, what about using Python? So I went in Python and first asked to make these 80 files one file. That was like 15 seconds like this. Then, second step, let's do now the cleaning. So I start explaining each time you have a negative number, make it positive, but create a column where when it's negative, it's debit, when it's positive, it's credit. Then if this client has this name, do this accounting number, and then delete the PayPal lines. And after like 2-3 times that I tried, same way that you will do in Excel, you will not have a formula that works straight away. I had exactly the file for my accountant. I called him like 45 minutes after, uploaded the file with him in the computer, in the system, and he calls me and says, everything is green, all of your transactions are booked. And I could never have done that without the help of AI. And I will never have been able to do that without the help of Python. And what is good also with Python is the tool that will allow you also to start your first forecasting with AI. Because the forecasting models, like Prophet, Arima, Sarima, that looks at the seasonality and some trends, you can run them on your historical data using Python. And it's really accessible. So Python now, since yesterday, is also available in Excel. So you don't even need actually to have Google Colab. You can start also in Excel. And now, finally, Copilot in Excel will be also useful because you can code Python, asking Copilot to code for you. So that's really, for you, an enabler to use generative AI and Python together. And that's how we are going to automate a lot of tasks and spend more time doing human tasks and less time doing robot tasks. So for you, I have actually a free cheat sheet where you can download it right now, so you can take your phone, that explains you even more about how to use ChatGPT. And there is a really cool part is how to prompt. So there is the left one, basic prompting, but there is also advanced prompt techniques that are really good. And then after, I have the slides also as QR code. So everybody got it? Yeah? So, OK. And you got it? Or? And you can download this presentation where there is even more inside. All of the videos are inside. If it doesn't work, because there is a lot of videos, I will send you a PDF, I guess, tomorrow or the day after. So now we have 1 or 2 minutes. I really want to hear your questions, because I'm training a lot of finance teams, and the questions are actually the part where we make those presentations the best for you. So who has a question? Please go ahead. Don't be scared. You already did the most important is you came here today. Like, you're already part of the top 1% in finance. Because imagine all of your colleagues who either their company didn't pay for it, or they didn't think that it was important to come. So you are already part of the 1%. Now that you saw that today, my ask to you is to show that to your colleagues, because if they didn't understand yet how important it is, then we need to help them. We need to show them that. And that's why I explain that simply, because I think it's important that everybody is moving towards it and that we don't let the others alone. Yes?
Thanks for the presentation. I have a question. So you had that nice example of many files which you would combine to get the full list of transactions. Though we all know that LLMs are not perfect, right? Sometimes they make mistakes. So within these processes, what's your approach to do the quality check, to validate that the result is like accurate?
So here, the LLM is writing the code. So what you can do is check if you try that on a really small sample that you can understand, and that you can verify that it's doing exactly what you want. And if the code works on one file, it will work on 100 files. It's like an Excel formula. So, and that's really the difference between LLMs that can hallucinate and Python that is stable. Because if you tell Python do X, it will always do X. It will not change.
Yeah, but in the programming, right, there often you have some edge cases, let's say, right? For example, if it's a complex formula, there could be some branches which are not done properly. And by quick check with like, I don't know, 10 lines of the file, you may not catch them. Or it's maybe missing just the last line because you don't have like end of the line there or whatever. So there is like very subtle things. So do you have something to like?
Yeah, so what you do is you replicate exactly what you will have done if you were asking your team to do that or doing it by yourself. Meaning you are going to also ask in the code to get control checks. Okay, count the number of lines and check that you have exactly the same number of lines in the combined files. Then check the sum. Then like you will just put that in your code that you have the assurance that the code worked well. Because you don't want to believe the same way that if you use Excel, the same way that if you ask an assistant to do that for you, you will have control checks. The difference is instead of doing that manually, you just integrate that in the code, and like this, you have it in front of you if the check worked or not.
Okay, thanks. So you trust LM in writing the code in some sense.
Yeah, but you need to test that the code works like you want it. Yeah. The same way than an Excel formula.
Thanks.